After disguising as a man and outshining the entire court, the emperor secretly slipped me a small note. I opened it and thought, this is just great. You're really something else, aren't you? I don't mind if my boss is gay. But I definitely mind when my boss wants to be gay with me. Today, right after the morning court session, the emperor handed me a slip of paper. On it were 9 words written in a sweeping, dragon-like script. My sleeves can be cut for your sake. Pinching this light yet heavy gold-speckled paper. Standing in the empty hall after the assembly, in a hall where I could hear my own heartbeat, on the white marble steps, I felt like I had been struck by lightning. I was scorched on the outside and tender on the inside, numb from the tips of my hair to the soles of my feet. My name is Song Jinjiao, and I'm a transmigrator who was born into this world. When I opened my eyes at birth, I was already the child of a widow. My mother held me and cried, saying the Song family finally had an heir. To preserve the family property, my mother announced to the world that she had given birth to a boy. Well, since I'm here, I might as well make the best of it. Being a man is better than being a child bride, right? As I grew up, the only path before me was to study. Take the imperial exams, become an official, and make money. I had to earn a living for both my mother and myself. I began my life as a top student, grinding day and night, thanks to the memory boost that came with transmigration, and the logical foundation from my previous life's education. I mastered the 4 books and 5 classics better than anyone. My political essays were beautifully written, and I could even sneak in some modern insights borrowed from the wisdom of my previous life. At 15, I entered the exams, passing from county to city to provincial level, fighting my way through to the capital, until I became the top scholar, Shuang Yuan. Now my career is flourishing, so how did I attract this kind of trouble? I don't mind my boss being gay. But I mind when my boss wants to hit on me. To be honest, if I really were a man, I would love to be with the emperor. It might even save my life. If I were lucky, with a hard-working service attitude, I could gain the emperor's protection in court. But I happen to be a woman disguised as a man. A woman entering the court as a third-rank official. That's enough to get my entire lineage executed 18 times. What on earth should I do? My mother, Lady Song, was widowed young. She supported the family single-handedly. Her mental strength is even better than mine. After listening to my brief report, the sock she was sewing fell to the floor with a thud. The room became deathly silent. After a long pause, she picked up the sock and patted off the dust. Her voice trembled slightly, but she tried to remain calm. Jower, did His Majesty really write that? I took the note out of my pouch and handed it to her. She squinted at it for a long time, her face turning pale and then green. This really is His Majesty's handwriting, without a doubt. What a sin. My mother thumped her chest, looking at me with a complex expression. There was terror, worry, and a strange hint of pride. My child is such a talent, that even as a man, she attracts the emperor. Truly, a blessing and a curse. Mother, is now the time for such comments? What do we do now? I rarely showed panic appropriate for my age. My mother stood up, paced the room twice, and then stopped. What's there to fear? My child studied so hard, earned her status through legitimate means, and is a hardworking official of the court. Can she not survive just because of one sentence from the emperor? But this is deceiving the throne. Deceiving the throne was forced upon us. Was I supposed to tell everyone you were a girl back then? To let people steal our property? And leave us mother and daughter on the streets or even sold? She thought for a moment, and added, also, with your physique. You must be even more careful in front of His Majesty. Wrap yourself tighter, walk with bigger strides, keep your voice steady. And don't touch any makeup at all. Stay away from other young officials too. Especially the handsome ones. To avoid making His Majesty jealous, my face turned green. Mother, what are you even saying? All right, let's not talk about that. The family meeting ended after a heavy 7 minutes. My mother went to the small Buddhist hall to pray, probably asking all the gods to protect her daughter from either being taken by the emperor or being beheaded. I went back to my study, closed the door, and spread out a piece of paper. I picked up the brush, but couldn't bring myself to write. What should I reply, Your Majesty? Your servant's sleeves are straight? Too blunt. That's a death wish. Your Majesty's kindness is immense. Your servant is terrified. However, I am dedicated to the country and have no heart for romance. That has some potential, but it's too direct. It sounds like I'm accusing the emperor of being distracted by romance. Your Majesty, I already have a cousin betrothed to me by my mother. What if the emperor doesn't care and just wants my body anyway? Your Majesty, to be honest, I have a hidden physical ailment. How could I face anyone after that? And a doctor's exam would expose me instantly. My head was splitting. Finally, I dropped the brush. Forget it. I'll just wing it when the time comes. Maybe His Majesty was just acting on a whim, and he'll forget in a couple of days? It turned out I was far too naive. The next morning at court, I had dark circles under my eyes, trying my best to stay alert among the civil officials. Xiaoyin, on the dragon throne, was as majestic as ever. He listened to reports from various departments, occasionally asking sharp questions with biting precision. He didn't seem to look at me at all. I breathed a small sigh of relief when the assembly ended and I started to leave. Eunuch Gao, the head of the palace attendants, came over with a smile. Minister Song, His Majesty requests your presence in the imperial study. In the study, the familiar scent of ink and imperial incense filled the air. Xiaoyin was reviewing memorials. He didn't even look up when I was announced. Take a seat. I thanked him. I sat on the edge of a stool, keeping my back straight, focusing intently on my own breathing. Time ticked by slowly. With only the sound of his brush scratching against the paper, the silence was suffocating. I could even hear my own heart beating against the tight chest wrap beneath my robes. I don't know how much time passed, but he finally put down the brush and looked up at me. Minister Song. I am here. I immediately stood up, keeping my head down. Yesterday, after court, was everything all right? His tone was flat, like casual small talk. I stayed steady. Your Majesty, everything was normal. He picked up his teacup, using the lid to gently stir the tea leaves. I seemed to have lost a note yesterday. Did you happen to see it? Fortunately, Xiaoyin cared about appearances and didn't expose it directly. Thank goodness. Xiaoyin hasn't yet completely lost his mind. I do not know what kind of note your Majesty refers to. I went straight home after court yesterday. I stayed silent. The pressure from him felt almost tangible. I nearly buckled and confessed. Oh? Perhaps I misremembered. It wasn't anything important anyway. Just a few casual words I wrote down. If it's lost, it's lost. I lowered my head even further, fearing Xiaoyin would see my relief. Minister Song, you seem to have grown thinner lately. The Ministry of Personnel is busy, but you must take care of your health. He changed the subject, his tone sounding genuinely concerned for a subordinate. Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. I am overwhelmed. I dare not complain about serving the country. Still, you must be careful. After all, you are a trusted official of the court. And I have great use for you in the future. Great use for what? Great use for warming your bed? I will certainly do my best to live up to your Majesty's high expectations. Dismissed. Regarding the tax memorials from Jiangnan, give me a proposal within 3 days. Your servant obeys. I felt like I'd been pardoned. I bowed and left. It wasn't until I was far from the imperial study and felt the cold wind that I realized my inner robes were soaked with sweat. In the days that followed, I felt like I was living in an invisible web. Xiaoyin's concern became more intense. He summoned me for private meetings every few days, and the meetings lasted later and later, once even until the palace gates were about to be locked. The topics of our discussion started to drift. After official business was done, he would ask random personal questions. Minister Song, Huzhou is a place of beautiful scenery. It must produce remarkable people. What do you do for leisure? Do you like poetry or music? At your age, Minister Song, has your family not pressed you to marry? Do you have someone in your heart? Each time, I had to be fully on guard, answering with perfect caution. I painted myself as someone from a poor background, entirely focused on work, with zero knowledge of romance. Basically a socially awkward workaholic. He even started giving me special treatment, like being able to enter and leave the palace at will. The atmosphere in the court began to shift. At first, it was just my political rivals attacking, but now even neutral officials, and some veteran ministers who liked me, looked at me with an indescribable sort of scrutiny. My colleagues didn't even dare to joke with me anymore. Even more terrifyingly, I discovered someone was secretly investigating me. Back in my hometown of Huzhou, strangers seemed to be asking around about the Song family young master's childhood. In the capital, near the teahouses and bookstores I occasionally visited, there were more unfamiliar faces. Even when my mother went out to pray, she returned saying she felt someone was following her. A storm was coming. I had to break the stalemate. How? Make the emperor straight? I wasn't that capable. Confess to the emperor? That would be suicide. Just as I was at my wit's end, unable to sleep at night, a turning point came at the Lantern Festival banquet in the 6th year of Jinghe. According to custom, officials of the 4th rank and above and their families attended. A single person like me naturally went alone. The banquet was held at Linghua Hall by Tai Pond. The lights were bright. The music was pleasant, and the drinks were flowing. I tried my best to minimize my presence, shrinking into a corner to eat quietly, praying for it to end quickly. The emperor sat at the head table, accepting toasts, looking normal, occasionally whispering a few words to the Empress Dowager. Halfway through the drinks, the atmosphere became lively. Some royal relatives suggested playing a drinking game with a drum and flour. The drums rolled, and a flour was passed quickly around the tables. Alarm bells went off in my head. I silently tried to shrink back, wishing I could turn invisible. Of course, what I feared most happened. The drumming stopped suddenly. That big, red, garish flower landed squarely in my lap. Every eye in the room instantly focused on me. I froze like a wooden duck. Eunuch Gao announced with a smile, "Oh. It's Minister Song. Minister Song is incredibly talented. You must give us a good performance." "Like hell I will. Can I perform a disappearing act?" The rule was that whoever got the flower must either recite a poem or showcase a talent. Poetry? My mind was a complete blank. Only the word help was scrolling through my head. Showcase a talent? What was I supposed to do? Break a stone on my chest? People in the seats began to whisper, with smiles that suggested they were watching a comedy. The emperor's gaze also landed on me, his fingers gently tapping his wine cup, giving away no emotion. I stood up reluctantly. "Your servant has no talents, and will drink 3 penalty cups instead." Minister Song, why so humble? A vice minister from the Ministry of Rights who never liked me, said, "I have heard for a long time that Minister Song is not only great at writing, but must also be skilled in music and art. On this festive day, why not let us all broaden our horizons?" "Broaden your own damn horizons." I was about to continue declining, when Xiaoyin suddenly spoke. His voice wasn't loud. "If Minister Song is unwilling, then let it be." My heart relaxed. But his next sentence sent me back to hell. "However, the rules of the game cannot be broken. Since Minister Song is not skilled in fine arts." He scanned the room, his gaze finally landing lightly back on me. "I remember Minister Song said he practiced archery for health. He must know some martial arts. Today, in the spirit of the occasion, demonstrate some hand-to-hand combat to entertain us. How about it?" Hand-to-hand combat? I felt everything go black. I am a weak, cross-dressing scholar. I spend all day buried in paperwork. My limbs have practically atrophied. Asking me to demonstrate combat was like asking me to die on the spot. "Your Majesty, my skills are just for show. They are not fit for eyes to see." Xiaoyin raised an eyebrow slightly, his look clearly saying, "I dare you to refuse." I understood. He was doing this on purpose. He wanted to see me humiliated. If he can't have me, he'll destroy me. Petty man. "Fine, you want a show? I'll give you a big one." I stepped forward into the open space of the hall. "Your servant obeys, but my skills are crude. I fear I will make a fool of myself. Please allow me a moment to prepare." I stood up and slowly began to untie my official belt. I stood up and slowly began to untie my official belt. Everyone stared at me, dumbfounded. Xiao Yin's finger tapping the cup stopped. I took off my heavy outer official robe, folded it carefully, and set it aside. Underneath was a lighter set of clothing. Then I began to untie those robe strings too. There was a collective gasp in the hall. Some of the ladies even blushed and looked away. Xiao Yin's face darkened. "Minister Song, what is the meaning of this?" I didn't stop my hands, my voice clear, even carrying a hint of reckless calm. "Your Majesty, martial arts require freedom of movement. Furthermore, your servant has a hot constitution. The charcoal fire in the hall is strong. Heavy robes would be a hindrance, and it would be unsightly if I couldn't perform properly." While speaking, I had already removed my middle robe, revealing the white inner tunic beneath. The tunic had a high collar, wrapping me up tightly. I could feel countless gazes scanning me like searchlights, especially Xiao Yin's, which was sharp enough to burn holes through me. I suppressed the urge to run and continued my performance. I started doing warm-up exercises, chest stretches and waist turns, deliberately making the leg stretches wide, but keeping my posture vigorous and strong. I couldn't show even a hint of feminine grace. Warm-up finished, I stood still and cupped my hands. "Your Majesty, please forgive my poor performance." Then I started punching. There was no logic, no specific style, just whatever I could remember from school radio gymnastics. Combined with some basic military drills, I mashed them all together. The moves were wide and powerful, accompanied by short, sharp shouts of "he" and "ha." The entire Linghua Hall was speechless. Only the sounds of my "he-ha" soundtrack and the rustle of my sleeves remained. Everyone, including the emperor, was stunned. When the routine was done, I finished with a sharp pose. "It is finished." There was a deathly silence. Xiaoyin looked at me. His expression was quite a sight to behold. He seemed to want to laugh but was holding it back. Finally, he said in an unreadable tone, "Minister Song, that was truly unique." "Thank you, Your Majesty." I thanked him calmly. I walked back to my seat, and calmly put my outer robe back on, as if the person who just stripped in public wasn't me. Before I could even sit down, the Prime Minister stepped forward and knelt. He asked the Emperor to betroth his daughter to the Vice Minister of Personnel. The Vice Minister of Personnel? That's me. My daughter has been in love with Minister Song for years. I beg your Majesty to grant this marriage. Xiaoyin looked at the Prime Minister. And his face changed instantly. Oh no, is he jealous? Is he going to take it out on the Prime Minister and his daughter? The Prime Minister had helped me before. He was like a mentor to me. Seeing Xiaoyin about to speak, I thought, if I don't go to hell, who will? Your servant has a preference for the cut sleeve. I cannot bear to ruin a lady's life. Silence fell again. Several ministers instinctively pulled their robes tighter. What, do you think I'd actually be interested in you? Minister Song. You certainly are courageous. Haha, Mr. Emperor, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it. After the banquet, my colleagues all stayed miles away from me. Men are so dramatic. Minister Song, the Emperor requests your presence. Eunuch Gao's forever smiling old face at this moment looked to me, exactly like the Grim Reaper. He stepped aside to lead the way, whispering very quietly. His Majesty seems to be in a very bad mood. Be very careful with your words. Xiaoyin wasn't sitting behind his desk, but was standing by the window with his hands behind his back, looking at the hazy palace lanterns outside. Song Jinzhao greets your Majesty. I knelt down decisively. I'll probably be using my knees a lot today. He didn't turn around. Nor did he tell me to rise. The silence was like icy water soaking into my robes, freezing me to the marrow of my bones. A preference for the cut sleeve. Minister Song really opened my eyes today. Your servant is terrified. I have offended your Majesty and deserve 10,000 deaths. He slowly turned around, his imperial boots stopping right in front of me. In this place of ultimate power, you certainly do. I ask you, are you really a cut sleeve? Or is that just an excuse to refuse the marriage? I ask you, are you really a cut sleeve? Or is that just an excuse to refuse the marriage? Your servant is indeed a cut sleeve. I have no feelings for women whatsoever. Instead, I feel admiration for handsome and gallant men. I chose the first option. At most, my reputation would be ruined. But the second option was deceiving the throne. That's a lose your head offense. Then how do you explain your lack of response to my note? Am I not handsome enough for you? Why won't he just let this go? Your Majesty is a dragon among men. As your servant, I naturally admire you immensely. Since you admire me, why did you not respond? Great, now it's love me or die. Staying alive is the most important thing. What does a little humiliation matter? Your Majesty's thunder and rain are all imperial favors. Your Majesty's favor is to your servant both an immense blessing and an overwhelming burden. I indeed have this orientation. But this path is not accepted by social morals or laws. And even less so by the pens of historians. Your Majesty is a wise ruler, the master of the realm, and an example to all people. If I responded out of selfish desire, I would be leading your Majesty astray. How would the history books record that? How will the censors present their petitions? How will the people of the world speak of your Majesty? How could I dare, out of greed for your Majesty's favor, cause your Majesty's reputation to be tarnished by fleeting desires? Such an oath before the court, a sin of this magnitude, I could not atone for even with 10,000 deaths. Even if your Majesty blames me for this, I, Song Jinzhao, will have no regrets. Every word was spoken with such heartfelt sincerity, and the logic was so perfectly self-consistent. I had practically painted myself as a tragic, loyal official, who endured for love and shared the ruler's burdens. A dead silence filled the imperial study. I could feel Xiaoying's gaze lingering on my bowed back for a long time. Finally, he slowly raised his head. I looked up on cue, letting an expression of admiration, pain, and loyalty wash across my face. His eyes were deep and unreadable as he watched me, as if scrutinizing how much of my speech was sincere, and how much was a lie. Song Qing, are you aware that the crime of deceiving the emperor is beyond pardon? Every word I spoke came from the bottom of my heart. I would not dare deceive your Majesty. If there is a single false word, I am willing to accept immediate execution, even if I say that I do not care what the historians write? That I no longer care about the rumors? What if I tell you that I can follow the example of the ancients? The precedent for such affairs is long-standing. What if I tell you that I can follow the ancients? The trend of the southern wind has precedence. Your Majesty, it is precisely because your Majesty is a wise ruler that you must not do this. Precedents may exist, but they are mostly hidden away as shameful palace secrets or associated with the names of muddled tyrants. Your Majesty governs with diligence, bringing peace and prosperity to the land today. How can you allow a mere official like me to become a blemish on your reign? I would rather die than be the disaster that ruins the monarch and the state. Rather die than be the disaster that ruins the monarch. Well said. Xiaoying let out a sharp, cold laugh. It was hard to tell if it was praise or mockery. Song Jinzhao, that silver tongue of yours is even more formidable than the policy essays you write. He leaned back in his chair, resuming the cold distance and majesty of an emperor. At today's palace banquet, you exposed your own shortcomings. Though shocking and unconventional, it has certainly cut off the schemes of certain people, and spared us much trouble. However, with this proclivity of yours, your future in the court will be an uphill battle. I have long expected this. I only seek to have a clear conscience, and to do my best for your majesty. Song Jinzhao. Remember what you said today. I hate deception and calculation above all else. Cold sweat instantly soaked my back. I shall keep it engraved in my heart, and would never dare forget. You may go. He waved his hand, looking somewhat weary. The tax audit for Jiangnan. Submit the detailed report tomorrow. Also, since your body runs so hot, I will have the Internal Affairs Bureau send less charcoal to your residence. Lest the next time you wish to stretch your limbs, you have to strip in public again. I thank your majesty for your consideration. The corner of my mouth twitched slightly. I cowed out and withdrew. Since that heart-stopping gamble in the study, Xiaoying's degree of reliance on me had daily surpassed the normal boundaries of ruler and subject. Almost every day after the morning court, eunuch Gao's smiling face would appear punctually on my path out of the palace. This became the new routine. At first, it was indeed to discuss state affairs from late morning until the afternoon. His thinking was meticulous, and his demands were extremely high. His questions often left me breaking out in a sweat, yet they pushed me to respond with everything I had. Later, the hours for discussing affairs grew later and later. Often, when work was finished, the palace gates were already being locked. He would naturally ask me to stay for a meal. The dishes from the imperial kitchen were exquisite, but they tasted like ash in my mouth. Occasionally, he would personally serve me food with the imperial chopsticks. His movements so natural it felt as if they'd been rehearsed 1,000 times, yet it made every hair on my body stand on end. The looks from my colleagues grew more complex by the day. Jealousy, speculation, disdain, and fear. All these emotions intertwined. I had become a literal, close official of the Son of Heaven. And in the eyes of many, I was nothing but a sycophant who had climbed his way up through favoritism. The memorials impeaching me increased in number, though Xiaoying quietly suppressed them all. Without acting, the pressure followed me like a shadow. The most lethal part was, Xiaoying began demanding that I stay overnight. The first night I was held in the palace, I lay in an unfamiliar bed, suffused with the scent of ambergris, staring at the ceiling until dawn, and things eventually slid toward the direction I feared most. I once again understood a certain truth. In all things, there is only the first time and the infinite times after. On this day, I was summoned to the study once more. Unsurprisingly, the discussion stretched late into the night. Xiaoying put down his brush and rubbed the bridge of his nose. His expression carried the faint exhaustion of dealing with heavy administrative tasks, which only added a sense of languid danger to his presence. Your Majesty has worked hard. I shall take my leave. I rose immediately, wanting only to escape the suffocating silence. What is the hurry? He looked up, the corner of his lips curling into a phantom of a smile. Stay in the palace tonight. The wind and snow outside are heavy, but there was clearly no snow tonight. Is he not even going to pretend anymore? I had a terrible premonition. I hurriedly tried to find a way to refuse. This is an imperial order, he interrupted, his tone brooked no argument. Just like that, I found myself following Xiaoying back to his bedchamber. In a daze. Once we reached the chamber, he suddenly said, "Come, help me undress." I was struck as if by lightning, frozen in place. Undressing? This had already far exceeded the duties of a subject. I could only bite the bullet and step forward, as my fingers touched the intricate fastenings of his imperial robe. They trembled slightly. He cooperated by raising his arms, shedding the outer robe and handing it to me. I turned to drape the robe over the screen. When I turned back, he was in his inner garments, sitting naturally on the edge of the bed. He patted the spot beside him. "Come here." My legs felt as if they were made of lead. I couldn't move a step. He seemed to sigh, then rose and walked toward me. I instinctively backed away, until my back hit the cold, carved wooden screen. He reached out, his thumb lightly brushing my lower lip. The warm touch sent a jolt up to my neck, making my whole body shiver. He reached out, his thumb lightly brushing my lower lip. The warm touch traveled to my neck, making me shiver all over. "What are you afraid of?" His voice was low and elegant, his gaze lingering on my lips, deep as a dark pool. He lowered his head, and a kiss as light as a feather landed on the corner of my mouth. Beneath my chest binder, my heart was racing frantically, as if it were about to smash through my ribs and jump out. He pulled back slightly, looking at my instantly flushed face and wide eyes. He approached again. And this time the kiss fell on the side of my neck. The warm breath sprayed across my skin, triggering a wave of instinctive numbness, followed by boundless fear. I couldn't let this continue. Using all my strength, I jerked my head away. And at the same time, my knees gave out. I practically slid to the floor in a pathetic kneel. "Your Majesty." He paused, looking down at me, his expression dark and heavy. I huddled on the floor, my forehead pressed against the cold, smooth golden tiles. I took a few sharp breaths. When I looked up again, my face was flushed with forced humiliation and shame, and my eyes were even brimming with physiological tears. "Your Majesty." His patience seemed to be running out. I closed my eyes, as if throwing caution to the wind. I cannot endure being the one on the bottom in bed. A deathly silence spread through the bedchamber. I could feel the gaze from above me, shifting from initial shock to a sharp edge, then staining with an unbelievable fury. "Cannot endure being on the bottom," he repeated slowly. It was as if he had heard the world's biggest joke, yet he also seemed thoroughly enraged. He suddenly bent down, grabbing my chin in a tight grip, forcing me to raise my head and look directly into the storm churning in his eyes. "Do you mean to say you want me to be the one on the bottom?" This was a massive gamble. One wrong move and it would be total ruin. But the play had begun, and I could only bite the bullet and keep acting. I wouldn't dare. How could I dare desecrate your Majesty's imperial person? It is precisely for this reason that I have never dared to respond to your Majesty's favor. I am willing to sacrifice my life for your Majesty, but in this matter alone, I beg your Majesty to leave me one last shred of dignity. His chest rose and fell slightly. He was clearly livid. Time flowed through the suffocating stalemate, each second as long as a year. Finally, he violently shoved my chin away, stood up, and turned his back to me. "Get out." Days flowed by with an eerie calm. The imperial study was no longer my daily check-in point. Eunuch Gao's smiling old face also rarely intercepted me on my way out of court. I was submerged once again in the ranks of civil officials, returning to the trajectory a third-rank vice minister should have. The way my colleagues looked at me shifted from complex speculation to a subtle curiosity, and even a trace of indiscernible pity. Perhaps in their eyes, I had been a plaything of the emperor's whim. Now that I had lost favor, though I was spared the label of a sycophant, I had also lost the imperial grace, leaving my future looking grim. My mother privately muttered about blessings in disguise. Who knows if it's a bad thing? It's best that His Majesty has come to his senses. We'll just be honest officials. That's better than anything else. What disguise? Your daughter just escaped from the tiger's mouth, though that night's terrifying conflict left me shaken. It seemed to have accidentally sobered showing up. An official who could not cooperate in matters of the heart perhaps finally seemed dull to him, or even humiliating, leading him to give up on that absurd idea. I threw all my energy back into state affairs, striving to solidify my position through actual achievements and fade away from all those scandals. The Jiangnan Sol reforms showed initial results, and the revision of the Ministry of Personnel's evaluation rules went smoothly. Life seemed to be returning to the right track. I almost believed that the absurd cut-sleeve nightmare was truly over, until a sudden imperial decree shattered all my hopes into pieces. The atmosphere of that day's Grand Court Assembly was normal at first. As the assembly was about to dismiss, Xiaoying suddenly raised his hand, stopping the officials who were preparing to leave. "Ministers, stay a moment. Ministers, stay a moment." The voice was calm but carried an indisputable weight. The hall went silent instantly. I saw Xiaoying's gaze slowly sweep across the room before finally coming to rest on me. Vice Minister of Personnel, Song Jinzhao. My heart skipped a beat. I stepped out and bowed. "I am here." Since Song Qing entered the court, he has been diligent and his talents are outstanding. "I am very pleased." He paused, his tone becoming increasingly genial. "However, Song Qing has reached the age of adulthood yet remains all alone. Not only is your mother worried, but I also find it deeply concerning. I have heard the reason Song Qing claimed to be a cutsleeve is not that he truly has such a penchant, but because in his earlier years, before his rise, he was saved by a commoner woman. He has never forgotten her, and swore never to marry anyone but her." What is he talking about? When was I ever saved by a commoner woman? And when did I swear only to marry her? The entire court was also stunned. Then, whispers broke out, and the sound of discussion rose. Countless gazes focused on me, filled with surprise, realization, curiosity, and scrutiny. "Your Majesty." I wanted to deny it. I wanted to explain, but my throat felt as if it were being choked. Xiaoying raised his hand to cut me off. As if he had long since anticipated my reaction. Such a heart of deep affection and commitment is truly rare. I was moved by Song Qing's devotion. And have found that woman. Her name is Su Wan. Originally from Huzhou, she is of gentle character and is a perfect match for Song Qing. His gaze turned to the secretariat drafter standing aside. Draft the decree for the marriage. Vice Minister Song Jinzhao and Lady Su shall be wed immediately, to show my benevolence and care for my subjects. I thank your majesty for your grand grace. My head was buzzing. A complete mess. Once the decree was issued, the court was in an uproar. Soon, a tidal wave of congratulations followed. I didn't know Vice Minister Song was such a devoted man. It's no wonder His Majesty is so virtuous and cares so much for his officials. To create such a beautiful story. My reputation was completely reversed in a matter of moments. From an official with a hidden illness, I became a gentleman of deep affection and integrity. The loyal man persona was firmly established. I guess there's still hope. All the wedding arrangements were handled according to the rules. The emperor specifically ordered simplicity, but every necessary ritual was present. This so-called Su Wan was placed in a quiet separate courtyard, with matrons teaching her etiquette. I hadn't even seen her face once. The wedding day finally arrived. The vice minister's residence was decorated with lanterns and streamers filled with guests. I was dressed in the bright red wedding robes, accepting everyone's congratulations, bowing to heaven and earth, bowing to the parents, bowing to each other. The ceremony was finally finished. Send them to the bridal chamber. The red candles burned bright in the room, illuminating the brocade quilts and curtains, creating a piercing sea of red. I took a deep breath and walked to the bedside. My fingers trembled slightly as I pinched a corner of the red veil. Candlelight leaped into my eyes, lighting up the face beneath the veil. I lifted the veil, and a handsome, resolute face came into view. It was Xiaoying. He had actually disguised himself as the bride and was sitting on my wedding bed. Song Jinzhao. Are you surprised to see me? I staggered back a step. Your Majesty? My voice was so raspy I didn't recognize it. You. How could you? Why couldn't I? I granted the marriage. So I came to inspect it myself. Is there anything wrong with that? He approached me step by step, and I had nowhere to retreat. Song Jinzhao, I have thought about it for a long time. You said you could not be on the bottom. I accept that. I permit you. I was struck as if by lightning, my eyes wide, hardly able to believe my own ears. What is he saying? He permits me what? This wedding, heaven and earth were witnesses, and all the officials are the proof. From now on, in the eyes of the world, you are Vice Minister Song who has taken a wife. But here, with me, his Adam's apple bobbed once, carrying a sacrificial kind of determination. You are my husband. Husband? He actually went this far. For a mere official like me, to be the one on the bottom despite his imperial dignity? But I also have conditions. He took a step closer, his aura cold and overwhelming. You cannot always have it your way. You also need to be considerate. Occasionally, I should also. The information in this speech was too much to handle, making my head spin. No. It won't work. Wait. What else won't work? His tone was suddenly fierce, carrying a long-suppressed desire and agitation. Haha, I am even willing to be beneath you. What more could you possibly be dissatisfied with, you dog emperor? If I had the right equipment, I would definitely make you scream in satisfaction. Xiaoying paid no heed to my resistance, and threw me heavily onto the soft mattress. I was left dazed by the impact. The red silk curtain swaying before my eyes, a heavy body immediately pressed down, with scorching body heat and a strong scent of ambergris, trapping me firmly beneath him. The next second, the sound of silk tearing rang out. Xiaoying stopped his movements. His burning gaze froze on my chest. I followed his gaze. The chest binder. This time, I'm truly finished. His voice was squeezed out from between his teeth, carrying an unbelievable tremble. Song Jinzhao, you are a woman? Song Jinzhao, you are a woman. I scrambled and fell off the bed, practically throwing myself at his feet. Your Majesty, have mercy. Your Majesty, please calm your anger. I deserve 10,000 deaths. I dressed as a man, only because I had no other choice. My father died young back then, leaving behind a widow and a weak daughter. Our relatives were circling like wolves to steal our property. If I hadn't established myself as a man, my mother and I would have had nowhere to even be buried. I studied hard by the cold window, and put all my effort into passing the examinations. First, it was for self-preservation, and second, because I also had a desire to serve the court and do real work for the people. I raised my tear-blurred face, desperately trying to explain, trying to catch any sliver of a chance for survival. I never intended to deceive the Emperor, let alone toy with your Majesty's feelings. I have an elderly mother of 40 at home to support. I beg your Majesty, for the sake of my meager service over the years, to spare my life. No other choice. Serve the court. Song Jinzhao, good. You are truly something. To play me and the entire court in the palm of your hand. A woman's body. Sneaking into the court. Rising to the third rank. This is a crime punishable by exterminating your entire clan. His thumb roughly brushed across my cheek. It was unclear if he was wiping away tears or inflicting pain. You said you could not be on the bottom. And I actually believed you. I even thought that if it meant you could be the one above, then so be it. But you are fundamentally a woman. You were lying to me from the very beginning. While watching me toss and turn for you. And make those absurd concessions for you. Did you think I was just a joke? No. I never once thought your Majesty was a joke. When your Majesty showed favor, I was terrified beyond measure, unable to find peace day or night. I am not a man, so I cannot give your Majesty what you want. Your Majesty, if you truly cannot let this go. I was reaching for the final straw. Speaking without thinking, I have a male cousin, who is of a similar age, and looks about 70 to 80% like me. He is of a gentle nature, and he would surely be able to serve your Majesty. Shut up, Song Jinzhao, you still dare to say such things even now? What exactly do you take me for? I am telling you. I have never been a cut-sleeve. Haha, the one I like. Has always been you, Song Jinzhao, from the very beginning. I don't care if you are a man or a woman. It's you as a person that I want. Do you understand? He looked into my eyes, which were filled with shock and daze, and spoke every word with absolute certainty. Humph. The crime of deceiving the Emperor, I can wipe it away for you. The gossip of the court? I can suppress it for you. But this marriage, we have already bowed to heaven and earth, and all the officials have witnessed it. You, Song Jinzhao, are mine in life. His fingertips brushed against my neck, sending a shiver through me. And you shall be mine in death. Xiaoying did not execute my entire clan in the end because he had become part of my clan as well. Xiaoying didn't sentence me to death either. He said he didn't want to be a widower. Between Xiaoying and me, a secret and unspoken, shocking agreement was reached. In the imperial study, Xiaoying put down his brush. So your revenge is to continue standing in the court under the name of Song Jinzhao, to govern and bring peace to the country? I studied hard for 10 years, not for wealth or status. Since I had the chance to apply what I've learned, to seek some welfare for the people, and contribute my meager efforts to the court, I do not wish, because of my identity, to be trapped in the deep palace and wither away in vain. What your Majesty appreciated back then, wasn't it exactly this integrity and persistence in handling affairs? Xiaoying remained silent for a moment. You are right. What I admire has always been you, the sharpness you show in your memorials, the courage to argue your point in court, and your down-to-earth methods in handling practical matters. If, because you are a woman, such talent were to be buried, it would be a loss for the court, and a loss for me as well. He stood up, walked around the desk, and came before me. I grant it. However, since we are married, we are husband and wife. In this life, and every life hereafter, we shall be together. I am willing to share this world with you. Thus, a strange double life began. By day, I was the diligent Vice Minister Song, discussing affairs and handling documents with colleagues. Every once in a while, on a night with sparse stars and a bright moon, an inconspicuous small carriage would quietly stop at the back door of the Song residence. The curtain would be lifted. Xiaoying would step out and follow me into the manor. In my study and bedroom, there were no servants around. No tedious etiquette. Only him and me, and the silent moonlight outside. Time flowed like water, slipping away amidst a blend of thrills and tranquility. 2 years passed in the court, and my position became increasingly stable. The major tasks I handled were done beautifully, earning me solid achievements and a good reputation. By the time I rose to Minister of Rights, Xiaoying's empire, under our unique cooperation as ruler and subject, husband and wife, had also become increasingly secure until one morning while I was handling documents in the study, dizziness and nausea hit me unexpectedly. The doctor I summoned confirmed my fears and a sliver of hidden hope. I was nearly 2 months pregnant when the news reached Xiaoying. He was reviewing urgent reports from the border. The plan could now begin. Soon, it was known throughout the court and the country that Minister Song's respected but frail wife, Lady Su, had fallen seriously ill and needed to return to her hometown in Huzhou to recuperate. Minister Song, being a devoted husband, requested to escort his wife south and planned to stay in his hometown for a period of time. The emperor, moved by his sincerity and devotion, granted the request and gave him a 1-year leave. On the day of departure from the capital, the convoy was grand. The real me, in disguise, was secretly taken into the depths of the palace, to a quiet palace that had already been prepared. I assumed the identity of a woman chosen by the emperor, Consort Wan, who had humble origins but a gentle temperament. 10 months of pregnancy, and then childbirth. The process wasn't smooth. But in the end, a healthy baby boy was born safely. Shortly after, Consort Wan's life came to an end. At the same time, Minister Song ended his leave early due to his wife's passing, and rushed back to the capital, appearing in the golden throne room. The jade belt around my waist was half a size wider than before. Perhaps it was because while I was away, Xiaoying had been constantly finding ways to feed me delicacies. Minister Song, your devotion to your wife is deep and your loyalty is commendable. Now, at the birth of the crown prince, I appoint you grand tutor to the prince to assist in the eastern palace. Xiaoying sat on the dragon throne, but his eyes kept drifting toward me, filled with a hint of inexplicable pride. I bowed to accept the decree. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the officials whispering. They were likely marveling at how I still held such favor after losing my wife and how the emperor valued me so much. After the court session, as I reached the study, I was stopped by eunuch Gao. Hey, Minister Song, His Majesty requests your presence. As soon as I entered, I saw the emperor reclining informally on the soft couch. Seeing me enter, he immediately sat up. Jinzhao, come here, let me look at you. You haven't worn your official uniform for these months. Have you lost weight again? I rolled my eyes and walked straight to the desk. Your Majesty, please behave. I am now the grand tutor to the crown prince. There must be a distinction between ruler and subject. Ruler and subject are ruler and subject. Husband and wife are husband and wife. There's no conflict. You were cooped up in the palace for 10 months and then played the sickly person for another month. I almost forgot what it's like to sit across from you in the study, sipping tea. As we spoke, a cautious voice of an attendant came from outside. Your Majesty, the crown prince won't stop crying. He insists on seeing Consort Wan. Xiaoying's face darkened, but I couldn't help but laugh out loud. That little guy has been close to me since birth. He probably hasn't gotten used to the fact that his mother suddenly became his grand tutor. What are you laughing at? Xiaoying glared at me but still stood up. Let's go. Come with me to see him. I followed him toward the inner palace. Just as we reached the entrance of the eastern palace, I heard a childish wailing from inside. Entering to take a look, the little bundle was being held by the wet nurse. His little face all scrunched up, crying as if the world were ending. Perhaps it was the bond of blood. For the moment the little guy saw me, his cries stopped abruptly. He stared at me with his round eyes, his little arms and legs kicking excitedly. Good grief, I tried to coax him for so long to no avail. But as soon as you arrive, he's well behaved. He truly is your own son. I ignored him, stepped forward, and gently patted the little one's back. The little guy immediately leaned in, nuzzling his head against my official uniform, babbling something. Oh no. This kid probably recognizes you. How about we just come clean? Be careful with your words, Your Majesty. If this were to get out, the court would be in total chaos. In your role as the grand tutor, you'll have to manage the court, the Eastern Palace, and even me. Won't that be too tiring? How about I give you another title? Be my exclusive study partner. The kind that stays with me to review memorials at night. I quietly pinched Xiaoying's arm, watching him wince in pain. I couldn't help but smile. These ridiculous yet happy days will likely go on forever.